All right, let's head down to Jacksonville, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That is what it's called. Florida and Georgia in the SEC. 2 weeks to prepare for both teams. I find this to be utterly fascinating. Georgia's first game without Brock Bowers. Carson Beck has been the most consistent player on that team. They are getting a little healthier on offense, relatively speaking, outside of the tight end position. But what I find fascinating is this almost, I kind of think I know what Georgia is. I kind of think I know what they are on defense. I kind of think I know what they are on offense. I know exactly what Mike Bobo wants to do. I know what the scheme looks like. I know what Carson Beck is good at and what he like. What I find interesting is what is Billy Napier going to do with 2 weeks and a quarterback in Graham Mertz who's playing the best football of his life. They are doing tons of pre-snap stuff. That the offense looks exactly like it did under Anthony Richardson in terms of like what the philosophy of the offense is. They've got a couple of really dynamic playmakers that if they get the ball in space can make things happen. I want to know what Billy Napier's scheme is coming out of in like the scripted scheme. The first 3 drives for Florida's offense. What is their plan to attack Georgia's defense? Ricky Pearsall, Etienne, Graham Mertz, 80% completion percentage. I cannot wait to see what he actually does. It may not work at all. Georgia may squash it and win easily as a 2-touchdown favorite. I have a feeling Florida is going to have an interesting scheme. And I think Florida is going to play pretty good football in this game. I think Georgia wins. I do not like them to cover, but I think it's because Florida comes out with a very different strategy than what Georgia's defense is used to seeing. I don't know what that looks like. Short passing game, play action on first down. I don't know, but I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think the storyline for me in this one is, number one, how does Georgia look without Brock Bowers, and how do they use the other weapons to sort of compensate for that? We talked, last week about Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas. They're getting healthier at running back. They got a full complement of weapons. Carson Beck, I think, is very capable of taking more on his shoulders, and the offensive line will be potentially at full strength too. So there's a heavy lift here for Florida. And you look defensively this season in SEC games, 6.1, 7.2, 6.5, 7.4. Those are the yards per play that Florida's defense has allowed in SEC games this season. They're giving up big plays as well. So tough matchup. On the flip side of things, though, this is a measuring stick game for me for Billy Napier. The last 2 games Florida has played against Georgia, they've lost by 20 plus points. So, the spread's only 2 touchdowns, 14.5 here in favor of Georgia. Some of that probably baked in by not having Brock Bowers. But I think if you're Florida, they've been up and down all season. They had the poor performance against Utah. They got destroyed against Kentucky, but they sort of kind of stabilized here. And I think you see the offense under Graham Mertz has been efficient. He just come off maybe his best performance against South Carolina. The weapons, Ricky Pearsall has been great, but they're starting to get some other guys, whether it's Wilson, Boardingham, whoever, they've got a lot of young and talented weapons that are starting to come into play. But for me, I think it's all about just a measuring stick game. I think to your point, we know what Georgia can do, but I think if you're Florida, can you keep this game a little closer, which sort of helps more of that proof of concept that we've talked about with Billy Napier all season in one of the biggest rivalry games here.
I think that's what I'm going to walk away with from the game. That's how I feel, is that Georgia is just a superior team, that they are better at almost every position because they have better players, and they are an established program that's the 2-time defending champion. Shockingly, they're better. And the other coach is rebuilding a roster in his second year. But I think we're going to see the proof of concept. And to me, that is the offensive scheme, because I don't think they can stop. I don't think Florida can stop Georgia, regardless of Bowers or not. I think, yes, it's going to be interesting to see what Georgia has and how they deploy the weapons. The receiving core, the running back core, the offensive line, they've all been a little banged up. Are they getting healthier? Let's see what they look like without Bowers. I think that's all interesting, but I don't think Florida stops it. Youngest coordinator in college football, maybe he's got something for him, but I don't think they stop Georgia. I think it's the other side that we're going to say, oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty interesting. Oh, that was a sound game plan. They attacked a weakness. They played efficient football. They were patient. They made the game slow. Like I can see all of that happening for Florida's offense, and it makes it like a 31-17, and 31-20. And Florida covers the spread, kind of looks competitive. And that is the proof of concept that Florida fans don't want to hear about. They don't want to hear that. They want wins. I get it. But like, to me, that is a proof of concept of Billy Napier doing the job behind the scenes to build Florida back to where they should be. That's how I feel like that's how I'm going to come away from this game.
Feels like Georgia may be in control. The score may be relatively close, but Georgia's in control, and Florida really never, there's never really, you never, like if you're Georgia, you never really feel threatened, but it's close. I do think, Georgia defensively can probably kick this up a notch, and that seems weird to say that. The game against Auburn, they gave up some plays to the edge. I think there's maybe this group has not quite reached its potential yet, but coming off an off week, can they kick it up a notch too? Because this stretch of games here for Georgia, after this, it's Missouri, and of course they got to play Ole Miss and Tennessee. The preseason's over for Georgia. They've got to kick it up a notch at all these levels to get back to the national championship. So I'm interested in that. Can Georgia get there? Measuring stick game for Florida. What post Brock Bowers Georgia look like? I think the Bulldogs are the pick here for me.
Yep, I agree.